And welcome to our session today, Design Thinking in AI Implementation with Guy Laufer, whom I'll introduce in a minute. And very shortly before we start, I just want to just very shortly introduce our community and us as a host, and then we'll jump right into it. Sorry. So if this is your first time in any activity of the Learning Table community, then welcome. This community was established 2 years ago by Juno Journey, or me in Juno Journey, after years of working as head of customer success in the company, working with hundreds of HR, L&D, talent development leaders, and really feeling the pain of, dealing with a lot on your own or with a very small team. And we kind of decided that we want to create a platform where people don't need to go through everything that they're doing by themselves, that you are part of a big community where you can learn from each other, get help from each other, support, think together. I think it's a big part of, we build communities all the time. We deserve to be part of one. So we basically offer online webinars and workshops. We're open to anyone who feels like they have more to share with others and teach, just like Guy. We have community hubs all over the world, in the US, in Europe. If you're here, you probably get invitations from me. Exclusive senior level events and some more personal matchmaking, not on a personal level, but on a professional level. So if there's anything you feel like there is someone that could really help you with a challenge you're dealing with, I happen to know 2,500 professionals that could be a good fit to help you. So I'm here to hear what you need and help maybe make meaningful connections that can support you. In a nutshell, what is Juno Journey? Just in case you never heard of us before, very quickly, and how we're helping our customers basically move from learning to workforce readiness. And if you haven't heard of that before, which I don't believe you haven't, but I probably won't be the first one to tell you that the world is changing, probably faster than our organizations can really execute. And the real question is, where are we right now in supporting our employees with what they really need in this unbelievable change? And if we're talking about that change, and I'm sure you're all feeling it today, we're talking about changes like average skill tenure that reduced dramatically from years to almost nothing, which basically means we continuously need to upskill and reskill the organization. If we're talking about the number of business applications we're using, just it keeps on growing and the changes within them keeps on growing. And we want to see business value out of them. So that means a lot of application training. And obviously, if everyone else keeps, creating more, our own companies deliver much faster, which means that knowledge our people need keeps changing internally. So in a nutshell, they need our help. But what was that? I'm not sure. Most L&D teams are still stuck in the operational mode, still rather than really supporting their people in preparing their workforce readiness, like sending out reports, updating trainings, making content more engaging. That's not really the strategic aspect that we all need to focus on in this time. And that's exactly where we step in. So Juno supports hundreds of companies with a workforce readiness efforts in the humane era. And what does that look like? Basically, we connect the human strategy, which is all of you. You're not going anywhere. You're critical. But we do connect that with automated execution orchestrated by the Juno agent, which understands your company focus, your department goals, and your employee capabilities. And she doesn't do the work by herself. She does it with a team of agents. Each and every one of them focuses on a specific aspect of your employee's workforce readiness, from onboarding to manager enablement, compliance, knowledge enablement, priority-driven upskilling, and career management. We do it through two main models, the Juno Training, which is an AI-powered LMS that automates backend admin, takes care of content creation, real-time knowledge grabbing, verifying training understanding, automating workflows by company priorities, everything working for you. And the Juno Growth, which is a goal-driven LXP, turning performance goals into personalized development plans, creating career journeys, and automating learning budget management. So for the last minute of my time before we move to Guy, I just want to really quickly just give you a small peek into how our agents operate very, very shortly. I promise. So this is Jaden. He's fully synced with your company tech stack, evolving knowledge base and HRIS, and based on your company business goals and unique objectives, he builds within minutes role-based onboardings, ongoing trainings, basically anything you need based on any knowledge you have, making sure your either new hires, time to productivity reduces, and new employees just have the knowledge they need much faster, much easier without you needing to do the manual work of either creating the training or updating it. And of course, that allows any knowledge leader within the organization to create content easily that can be launched in minutes and automated fully. So that's one, that's Jaden. And the other one, really quickly, is Gemma. Gemma is your PDP builder. So based on company business goals, tools, and employee data, she offers personalized performance goals for each employee to support the business based on who they are. She takes into consideration the time frame they have, their favorite methods of learning, and the way they like to practice. And she basically builds a step-by-step actionable plan with tasks and content from hundreds of content providers without the need to prepay for any subscription. That's how we support upskilling and closing skill gaps. In addition, Gemma finds you the best mentors to partner with, making sure employees are set up for success at scale. And that was us in a nutshell, and that's it. And now for the main show for today. So before I introduce our expert, I will say, as I mentioned before, this is a community session. So that means it's not just about us hearing Guy and nodding, though we don't even see you nod. You have a space here as well. And the more people participate, I think the better off we all are. So at any moment, if you have any question, anything you want to add, you can write it in the chat. You can write it in the QA area. You can use the raise hand and we'll just stop and let you talk. Like really, it's a very dynamic session, so feel very free. If Guy answers a question and you have something to add, please do. Like this really is an open conversation and would love you to be part of it. And again, feel free to use the chat for really anything you want. Guy. A product learning and innovation leader with more than 15 years of experience designing impactful learning experiences, driving digital transformation, and leading product strategy across global organizations and startups. Guy specializes in design thinking, AI adoption, user-centric design, learning technologies, and workforce transformation. Throughout his career, he has led learning and product innovations for organizations including Amdocs and Elevation, reaching tens of thousands of employees worldwide. It's an honor to have you here with us. And from now on, stage is completely yours. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Khalil, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I would like to thank also Juno Journey for hosting this. And thank you all for joining, and good morning and good afternoon for those who are abroad. So without any further ado, I'll share the slides, and Khalil, I will ask your help whenever there's a question. If you have a question, please let's have a dialogue. Just raise the hand. And if something is being typed, I can't be in two places.
I'm on it.
Perfect. Thank you. So please, and don't hesitate. Let's have a conversation out of this.
Yes.
Okay, so let's dive into this. Oh, so many things on the screen. Let's move them. Okay, intro, design thinking, enhancing learning solutions by applying design thinking methods. Let's go into the actual presentation. So a little bit about myself. My background is I've studied in Israel at Bezalel Academy and the Hebrew University. At Bezalel, I studied visual communication. My background as a designer, but simultaneously, I studied in the Hebrew University and received my teacher's certificate. I moved to the States to pursue my master's at Pratt Institute. I decided to return to Israel, and then I stopped working for McKenna after a decade, and then joined Amdocs, Elevation, and Next. Today, I'm teaching at Reichman University, product design, and I am here with you guys. A little bit about my services. I'm supporting organizations with AI adoption, organization transformation, putting together workshops, delivering them, content creation, design expertise, as I said, and communication and brainstorming. So please, if you have any questions, or feel free to reach out. So let's start with a short icebreaker. What I would like to ask all of you, and one in specific, is to choose a product or a service that made you smile. And I want you to think about this product and to share what is this product, what did you like, and if you think this positive experience was accidental or made in intention. So think about something that you interacted, could be an app, could be a service, could be physical, and share a little bit about what did you like. And if you can write it down in the chat text, it would be great for us. And Khalil, you would read out, please.
I'll do my best. Come on, people, don't be shy.
No, this is not the place for shy. This is the time to shine.
Mm, very good question.
Let's see the is
So
anyone
far, it's a
writing?
shy group.
We have any feedback, Khalil?
No, not yet.
Not yet. We'll give it another 10 seconds. And the purpose of this icebreaker is basically to show you that if you had something that you enjoyed, this was usually had someone thought about this and had it intentionally over there. So that's the purpose of the icebreaker. Would be great if someone can share their perspective on a product or a service that they experienced and enjoyed it.
If you don't want to write, you can do a raise hand and we can just give you permission to talk. Ooh, very shy. I can't even see their faces. I
Okay.
can say that when we just started using my Monday.com, I remember I really loved the interface and the platform itself. It was just really easy to use and agile, and like it was easy to construct. Like it was really easy to work with.
That's a great company because I think that Monday is kind of an advanced version of an Excel, but with
Yeah,
very oriented towards design and user experience. So it's a great example of how a company took design and put it into the focus of the company and created a product that is not crazy innovation, but the experience is really thought out. So
exactly.
let's move
And
forward.
Cynthia, by the way, she wrote down Claude, which
Okay.
makes sense.
Claude is a dear friend.
Yes.
So introduction to design thinking. So we'll cover what is design thinking, how it differs from the traditional process, what does it the process looks like, and why now? Because I think that now more than ever within AI, design thinking is critical, and I'll explain. So first of all, what is design thinking? Design thinking is basically a systematic approach to problem solving, moving from a question mark to exclamation mark, and let's look, I want to first of all create a differentiation between design and design thinking. While design is most of the time perceived as let's make something pretty, design thinking is more of a process and a framework for everyone to leverage. You do not need background in visual communication or understanding of Figma. It's more of a way of looking at things when you are starting a challenge. This could be designing or thinking about a program or a product or a service. But let's look into the actual, if you would take an MBA graduate and ask them to look at a challenge and you would compare it to a design thinking approach, you'll see that the traditional approach is more data oriented and rationale centric. While when we leverage design thinking, we focus mostly and first and foremost on the user and his emotions, his or her, of course. Now, this doesn't mean that we are not going to take into consideration the data and all the aspects that we're going to take into the traditional realm, but we're going to add the user component. So let's look at what does it look like? What does this entail? So in traditional, you would look at analysis reports, you would do competitor analysis, ROI calculations, interview experts. While when you use design thinking, you would have more focus on the user. You would do observations on how they interact, what's their emotional state. You would build a persona. You would look at their user journey, and you would end up, if you are in a traditional aspect, you would end up with an Excel sheet. This is what we found out. While in the design thinking, you would bring to the table a prototype. This could be a poster, a video, or a sketch of an idea, of an initial idea of something that you can test the waters to see if what you have in mind makes sense. While in the traditional, you would jump into the solution. And in design thinking, you would test the prototype with actual customers or users and receive feedback and iterate. And in the traditional approach, design is an add-on at the end of the process. Usually what happens with designers, when we all hear designers, we think about, okay, we have a product, now let's send it to the designers and just ask them to make it pretty. While in design thinking, design is part of, it's a strategic tool that is throughout the entire process rather than just an add-on at the end of the process. So that's the biggest differentiation. And I want us to move forward to understand, okay, what does it look like? How can we leverage design thinking after this presentation? So it's a very systematic approach. So we have the 4D model. This is something that I use in the past, and I think is easy to understand. Discover, define, design, and deliver. And then feedback and iterations, and it goes back to discover. Why does it go back to discover? Because I believe that the products that we are building today, unlike building a cup, that our relationship ends while once it's get to IKEA shelf, the relationship between the designer or the creator ends over there. We can gather information, we can gather data, we can gather feedback and iterate and improve our product. And I think this is an important perspective for us while we are working to understand that this is basically an endless process. We can always improve based on the feedback that we are receiving. So when we do a discover phase, we do analysis, need analysis, we identify, we analyze the opportunity, we kind of opening the discussion, we gather a lot of information, and the define phase kind of closes. We edit down to understand what are the key findings that we need to report on and what's the recommendation. So we kind of open it and then we close it in the define phase. We will move then forward to the actual ideating and building or designing the actual asset and deliver it. So it's a very, sometimes you open wide your horizons and then you need to narrow it down. So it's a very a process where sometimes you get lost, but if you have the frame of mind and you have a structure to it, you have a clear understanding of where are the milestones need to be and what do you need to follow. Once you deliver the product, you put anchors to collect data and feedback, and then understand what needs to be adjusted and keep on going. So now let's put it in practice. Up to this point, this is very theoretical, and we all understand what you're saying in theory. Now let's put it into practice. So when I joined McCann World in the States, I was had a challenge. I was helping to support the organization to do a digital transformation program globally. And I needed to start somewhere. So the way I did is I went back to the drawing board and started collecting the data. I decided to, first of all, to understand the organization, understand how many employees. We have over 24,000 employees worldwide with 120 offices globally. This means that this is a huge beast and we need to deal with it. So I took 4 offices as a, as I would say, to test and to understand better the organization. I took different places from Latin America, North America, APAC, and EMEA. Why? Because I wanted different cultures, different capabilities, and different clientele. And this is important. And then I started collecting the data. As I mentioned, financial reports. Where is the money coming? What are the clients demanding? What are the business goals in each one of the regions? What are the resources? Do we have a clear process in each one of the regions? Who are the digital rock stars that we can leverage? We conducted the surveys and interviews and understand who are those digital rock stars that we can leverage afterwards. And we created 3 personas. Actually, in an advertising firm, it's pretty simple. You have account, creative, and strategy. And we put a clear persona and we created this hybrid employee, the employee that understands traditional advertising, TV and print, but has the ability to identify opportunities in the digital landscape. How will we do it? That was our challenge. So we kind of created what is the North Star that we want to create, how this employee, once they finish the workshop, how will they look like? Then I moved to the define phase, collected all the data, went to the senior to the senior stakeholders, but I had to bring to them, okay, not all the data. I want to show them, okay, what's the bottom line and what would you suggest? So I said the main challenge is to understand that we are dealing with a global organization, that the CCCs are shifting, which means the culture that you are working within, you need to take it into consideration. The clientele is different, which means that if you are building a campaign for Xbox, it's going to look different than in a pharma company. So that's also something you need to take into consideration. And capabilities. Some offices are already digital native. They have huge capabilities when it comes to the digital sphere. However, some of the offices are just stick to traditional media and are not sharing any digital revenue at this point. So what we wanted to do is create a flexible framework that will be able to adjust according to the situation of the office. And we created a framework. This was actually the drawing that I brought to the room. I said we're going to create 2 phases of learning. One is to set a clear understanding that we all speak the same digital language, because what we quickly found out throughout the research was that people are using different terms, different words. There's no clear unity between us, so that will be impossible for us to work and to collaborate if we do not speak the same language. So to establish a common ground that we all speak the same language, and then shift to actually doing stuff. So moving from speaking to actually doing, moving from a session to a workshop-oriented setting, which is tailored around real briefs, real clients with real challenges around creative, account, and strategy. And then we started moving, once we got the go, no go from leadership, we started moving into the design. Now, why is the design important? Because this is where you determine how the brand will look like. How will employees will interact? We need to remember that employees, unlike students, they do not come to study. They come to work. So if you're taking 1 hour of their work, they need to understand and feel that, first of all, you're treating their time with dignity, but also it's worthwhile to give you an hour for learning so I can actually work. When I come back to work, this will actually be effective. So we created a brand called Pixel, Play, Experience, and Learn. This was the brand. It was important for me to move from the traditional corporate of McCann, to create a younger brand, a little bit more fresh in that sense. We First thing first is we created always something that we can measure. First of all, it was at the beginning, it was a feedback form, a paper version, and soon after there was a mobile version, which basically allowed us to control a dashboard that we can see which offices are running the workshop, what is the satisfaction level when it comes to instructor, content, activities, expertise, and how it is relevant for your work. And we can always adjust. And it also allowed us to report upwards on what is being done. The biggest challenge when you're facing 28,000 employees worldwide is the scaling. And that was the biggest thing that, first of all, it was putting the content and then understanding how are we going to actually scale this. So the first thing that we did when I shared with you that the discovery phase, we decided to do a train the trainer system. Find these pockets of excellence and people within the organization that we can leverage. First of all, it will feel more natural to employees to hear their peers versus someone from the outside. And it makes it more reliable. And the content creation, the heavy lifting of content creation has been done for them. So they can basically leverage the presentation and adjust it according to their needs. So the storyline is there. They can either take it or change it according to their specific audience. We created presentations, trainer kits, and out-of-the-box solution. This, of course, is a physical representation, but we also had a digital. This was like we sent it out to CEOs who completed the program, so they took pride and put it on their desks. And delivery. So as I mentioned, we had discover, we did the define, we decided on what we're going to design. We moved to the design, and now it's time to roll this thing. So we started creating communication assets. There are two things that I think that we need to focus in learning more. One is the communication aspect. We tend sometimes to do a lot, but not amplify it we do not celebrate it enough. And I think we need to celebrate it more. These are posters that we had around the globe for celebrating the program. And another thing is constantly measuring it. I'll go back to it because I think that measurement is critical for senior leadership so you can explain what is the value that you bring to the table. So we did over 50 offices, over 15,000 employees, 15 languages. We looked at the cost of what was prior when we joined. What happened is they would take a group of 20 people, either in London or New York, send them out to an external academy. They would all come back hyped, but couldn't create any change because there were 20 people that were scattered in an office of 600 people. They couldn't move the needle. We couldn't create the impact that we wanted. Once we reduced the cost to less than $30 per an hour of training, we could have reached more people. The organization understood the value of it. And I think that these types of slides and numbers help to convince senior stakeholders. We reduced, once the scaling system was put in place, the travel cost reduced by 70%. The number of offices each year grew by 70 to 100%. We won numerous awards, which is always nice for the ego, but it's also nice for the senior stakeholders to see that there's recognition outside of the organization that this is actually something that is working. So we talked about, okay, you did the 4Ds, you did discover, define, design, and deliver, but then what? Something is now ticking, working. What's the next level? Now we collected the feedback. We saw that this group studying in a classroom format was great to that point, but we needed something on an individual level, something that is kind of an onboarding, something that is for the individual employee. So this is the iteration and feedback. We collected the feedback. We heard what we are here. We heard the feedback, and we decided to move forward and create Pixel on Demand, which was basically an app, bite-sized content, um, gamified experience, kind of a combination between Duolingo and Primer from Google. I don't know how many people here are familiar. Great app. Look it up. It's called Primer. It's by Google. It teaches on how to use their tools for small and medium businesses. You can download it. It's a very, I think, fresh way of learning. And before I could actually convince senior stakeholders that I need the money and the budget and the resources to put together the app, I built a prototype just to show them what's the idea. And I started testing it. I tested it around EMEA in North America. And the feedback was great. People really enjoyed it. It was short, it was clear to understand, it was gamified, it kept them engaged, and they were actually finishing multiple units every time. And that's how we launched Pixel on Demand for McCann World Group. This is just to show you how it looked like. You would go, you basically had a test that, based on your knowledge, would recommend you the content, was translated to different languages, and making sure, by the way, that the language, the illustrations, was something that was intentionally thought out. Why we picked out illustrations? Because we want to have something that is across cultural. So back to design thinking. We have four phases, which are the discover, define, design, and deliver. But then it does not end. If you take into consideration that you listen and read the data and read the feedback and sit with your users and understand what worked better, what needs to be changed, you are always in the cycle of improving your product or service. It doesn't matter. But why am I talking about design thinking now? Because there are four categories that I think we need to understand. First of all, everyone can generate what we moved from a passive internet to a proactive internet where we push a button and we receive the information versus we need to dive and research and explore content. The content is being brought to us. So manufacturing is less of our focus at this point. And I think that design thinking helps us to focus on the experience of what we're providing, not only on the content, but the experience itself. Another thing, another why now. Our audience is are employees that are working and playing around with apps like Duolingo, Primer, Drops, any other apps. And we need to measure ourselves again, what's being out there in other categories, and not necessarily code of conduct is kind of where when we look at L&D, we think about code of conduct, and I think that we need to push our envelope and ourselves to focus more and to put emphasis on the experience and not just on the content. Now, I think that at this point, this framework is easy to follow, and it will help you to create products that are more sensitive, are more engaging, and more fun, and delivering learning to an audience that has a resistance to a certain degree. We need to start thinking and leveraging methods that can increase the experience and the engagement. Thank you. Any questions?
I know that our audience is shy, other than Cynthia, that was a superstar before. I do have a question that Marilis, I see her here. You shared in advance in the form. Do I have your permission to ask it? I'll just give you permission to talk if you want. And if it's okay, I can share the question you asked in the form in advance, which I think is a great question. And Marilis, if you want, you can just jump in. She asked, what should an organization consider when adopting AI? So I think like what are the main things to take into consideration when you go through this massive process? And again, Marilis, you can add on anything you want on top of that. But that's a great question, I think. She also mentioned that right now one of her challenges is that AI is being adopted, but not necessarily being fully aware of how to adopt it.
So in my last organization that I worked in, we had to insert AI, but I think that the question is not about how you insert AI. It's about who is the audience and which AI platform is most relevant. So I'll explain to you my thinking in the way that what we've done in the previous company I've worked at. We understood that there are two main audiences. One is engineers, and the second audience is, we'll call them other for the sake of our conversation. Now, engineers need a totally different set of the tools and the outcome that they're creating requires not AI, but rather a specific tool in AI. So you want to identify exactly, to pinpoint what exactly are they doing at the daily job and what is the best tool to increase productivity, to create an impact on their process and product. So in that case, it was Cursor AI. So we decided we're going to work on two parallel streams. One is for engineering. We decided on Cursor AI, and the other one was Gemini for the entire audience. And at the beginning, what we wanted to do is to create workshops, and we decided to join partner with a vendor, an outside vendor, but it felt that they do not understand the work that is being done in the trenches. So we shifted it. We tested the waters with the vendor, and then we decided we're going to take a senior person, a senior engineer, and he will share what are the best practices. So coders do not only code, they do code review, they understand the business context. So we looked at multiple areas that engineers can leverage the tool, the AI tool, in order to increase their productivity. And we share practices from their daily work, things that they can relate to. And I think that that was the most important thing, is to bring something that the employee can resonate immediately with her or him. I think that is the challenge. It's not just, okay, we brought you Claude. Now it's about explaining to the accountant how Claude can affect their work. So you would take 5 scenarios of accountant and then show them what is the benefit of leveraging AI within their specific domain and how it could help them at their work. So I hope this answered the question.
I hope so too. Marilis is very quiet. Um, okay, so I think like I'm trying to look at questions that maybe weren't already answered here, but people raised. And one that was created, that was shared here was specifically about change management. So maybe what does change management look like, when you in the age of AI, and what differences have you seen in how you manage change internally in organizations? But also I see here like about work redesign, right? And how do you redesign workflows when you take into consideration design thinking so that AI adoption feels more natural and creates measurable impact rather than adding friction? And I feel like everything is kind of connected to each other.
Yeah, I will start with the first question. I think that the first and foremost is when you are doing a change within the organization, there are two ways of doing it. One is to say, okay, guys, we're doing the change, please change. And the other one is to rally the troops and to get the buy-in. and I was in two companies with those two totally different approaches. Both of them at the end will get to the end result. It's a question about how you would get there. So my feeling is if you do not have the senior stakeholders, the top leadership understand the value, I would create a workshop, a designated workshop just for the senior leadership to understand what's happening, show them case studies of what's happening to other competitors, what will happen if we won't do it, what will happen if we can't do it, bring numbers to the table, show them the change and what is the impact of the change. uh, I honestly saw in Israel the culture is totally different. We have military, so it's like I saw a change, digital transformation change, and it was just okay, guys. From tomorrow, we're gonna do this is the process. It did not embrace the fears. It did not take into consideration that you are changing people's. They've done work for 15 years in a certain way, and now you're changing it. I believe that you need to harness people into the change in order to get it up and ready faster. You can determine by yourself that this is the change, but I think you need the troops and the people to understand what's the value and make it as tangible as possible. This is going back to my previous question. Is they need to understand why. If they don't understand the why, it's not going to help. So I think that thought leadership is it's more about the buy-in and understanding. And if this means to do it one-on-one or small groups or wider groups, it doesn't matter. But you have to get the buy-in if you want to get it fast and get everyone aligned in an enjoyable way.
Thank you so much. That was great. Unless anyone has any more questions for Guy here, to the quietest group in the world. Okay, so thank you for joining us. Thank you, Guy, very much for your time and this really interesting session. That was awesome. I'll share also the recording and the non-editable deck. And thank you very much. And also details how to contact you if anyone wants more support, maybe to reach out. I'll have all the information set up for you all. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much and have a
Bye,
great
everyone.
day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.